Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Mechanics of Poetry. Today, we're going to discuss the question posed in a slightly different way than you'll see on the screen. On the screen, it says, what is your favorite form of poetry? What is your favorite poetic form? And it really stemmed from a question from our founder, Chuka Susan Chesney, who asked me, how do you make a sonnet? So I'm going to cover that, and then when I'm done with that, try not to take too long, and everybody's going to get a chance to talk about their favorite form, answering the question, what is your, doesn't have to be a favorite poetic form, but like form of the moment, whatever you want to share. I already know through secret sources that some of these are very interesting, so I'm looking forward to those. Okay, the sonnet. Now, everybody has probably heard of a sonnet. Maybe they've read some Shakespearean sonnets, right? They're quite famous. He wrote how many? It was like 150 of them, yeah. But there's a handful that are being repeated by people. But there's a sonnet. Well, I wrote one sonnet, one real sonnet, just to write a real sonnet. And I got it certified as a real sonnet. And it was published and all that. I'm going to share that with you right now. And then I'll go into how I wrote it. And then I'll show you some variations. Okay. So it's screen sharing time today. Yeah, so I wrote this one sonnet back in 1997. Got all satisfied with it. Never needed to write another one. Actually, I had something to talk about. This was written around the time of my grandfather's funeral. And oh no, I also remember there was a poet who died. So I'd gone to a couple funerals. And so I knew that a sonnet was supposed to be an iambic pentameter, and it's supposed to have a very tight rhyme scheme, the famous A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G. And then it was explained to me that a sonnet, a Shakespearean sonnet, should have 3 quatrains and 1 couplet. And the 3 quatrains, their purpose is to give 3 examples of the subject. And the couplet at the end, its purpose is to sum it all up. So in essence, the sonnet is the essay of poetry, right? You know, in a famous 5-paragraph essay, you're giving 3 different arguments or examples, and then you make a conclusion, right? It's quite similar. So I'll read you my 3 arguments and conclusion. And I'll tell you right away that
I don't think so.
When I wrote it, I did not try to rhyme. That was the secret to getting my sonnet written. I said whatever I wanted. I tried to get within the beat the beat pattern. And the way I did that was making sure that I had something like approximately 10 syllables, but it could go either way. So I said to myself 8 to 12 syllables maybe, and then I converted it to beats. But just to get the idea down. And then after the idea was down, then I looked at the end words and I asked myself, okay, which one is easier to rhyme with? And then I converted the end word to make it rhyme. And it came out like this. So I was rather happy that it came out this well. But I think the main thing was I had the inspiration of those funerals. So that was what made this work. All right. Here, a black box in the ground, freshly laden flower plot. A group of dark-suited mourners walk measuredly away. Slowly, not thinking, they repeat what they have been taught, to serve the unseen master of more than a day. Eternity, inconceivable for the lowered corpse that lies, is the sole evidence available. Death with solo flashes, sown again, the white light before the failing eyes, known as always to the mute and peaceful ashes. Still, the big question remain the plea unsolvable. The closest we come to knowledge is in dreams, where subconscious connection to crying family members floats in the airy night space of high word means. Now, the only certainty is uncertainty, but hope lives in the reincarnation of the past the present gives. Okay, so that's very archaic sounding, right? Because it's following the rhyme scheme and the beat pattern, and so it's really old-fashioned. But just to sum that up again, right? I wrote whatever I wanted to say and then checked the length of the line. Actually, I checked it more than once. I checked it before I started rhyming and after, trying to get it right. And you'll see that it's not perfect. But
Sean, would you mind screen sharing? Would you mind screen sharing your poem?
Oh, I did, didn't I? You don't see the poem?
I see
No.
it.
So
I
I'm
don't
see.
see it.
I have it full screen.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to share a different one just to show some variations now, because
Okay.
when I spent $30,000 to find out that there were variations on sonnets, it was a pretty high price to pay. But they gave me a sheet of paper afterwards that said MFA on it. Wow. Okay. So in order to show you a different poem, I have to stop sharing. I learned that the hard way the other day, and then bring up the share again to bring up a different poem. Okay, so then after being so satisfied for all those years, I went to school, and I think it was 2012. Yeah, 2012, there we go. So in 2012, I was assigned not just to write a sonnet, but to write a sonnet sequence, which means to have several sonnets. That was tough. I could only do 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to bore you with this sonnet, but if you look carefully, you'll see it does not follow a beat pattern. I'm writing pretty much whatever I want. That's another thing I paid $30,000 to learn, that there are variations of everything. In fact, if you can do the right thing, then you have the freedom to do the wrong thing. And I'll show you how far that can be taken. Here's another thing they taught me with that money. Right, so that was the sonnet sequence. If you do 12, that's called a crown of sonnets, by the way. That's supposed to be like the ultimate goal, to be able to write 12 sonnets, all related, a crown of sonnets. I haven't been able to do it. I did 4. Okay, but the other thing they taught me from the same year, right? Yeah, here it is. Here's some radical thinking. They said, why does a sonnet have to be 14 lines? It can be as many lines as you want. So this is a 20-line sonnet. And basically the title translated is 6 lines more than a regular sonnet. So I guess it's in quatrains, and it's a little bit lyrical, but I paid all that dear money so I could find out that a sonnet could be 16 lines, 20 lines, 13 lines, whatever. If you call it a sonnet, it has the spirit of the sonnet, whatever. Okay. Conversely, I don't know if someone's going to discuss haiku later, but there's something called an American sentence, which is an American variation on the haiku. It's the number of syllables, but all in one line. They call that the American sentence. Yeah. So I'm blaming the Americans for all this variation. All right. I've got 2 more I want to show you. This one is from 2015. This one I actually had fun doing, because you look at the title, Facebook Newsfeed Sonnets. So this is a found poem, really. All the lines are from the headings on my Facebook newsfeed. right? When you go down the feed, you see everybody's posts, including commercial posts. So I just took each one of those headings, made it a line in the order that they appeared. And then I try to make it flow. I did a little shifting, trying to make it flow. And just like the other poems I've shown you, this got published too. It's amazing. If you find the right publication, they'll publish anything. Facebook newsfeed Sonnets. I remember this publication, they published 8 of my poems, and secretly it's 9 because there's 2 parts here. See, misspelled duct tape. All right, and finally, there's another kind of sonnet. You may have already heard of it, the Italian sonnet, Petrarchan sonnet. And I love the philosophy behind it. I've written a couple, but I don't remember their titles, but this one I did recently. Again, breaking the rules. So I'll finish with this one. It's actually my newest poem. Sometimes when you find yourself writing something and it finishes and you count the number of lines, it comes out to 14. But this one was in 2 stanzas, 8 lines and 6 lines, which happens to correspond with the Italian sonnet, which is 8 lines and 6 lines. But the proper Italian sonnet should be asking a question in the first 8 lines and answering it in the last 6. And you can also be metrical with it and rhyme with it, just like the Shakespearean sonnet. The rhyme scheme would be a little different. This poem doesn't do any of that. It wasn't intended to be a sonnet. I don't even call it a sonnet. Merely the structure of 8 lines and 6 lines, 2 stanzas, 8 lines and 6 lines, remotely qualifies it. I could call that, but I don't think it would work in the title here. Nature's Cleaning Sonnet? No. I don't know. It's a new poem. So I'm going to read this just to satisfy myself, and then we're going to go on to someone else with another form. One of the best ways to evaluate your poetry, you probably know this already, is to read it, right? Read it, step back from it, read it again. I'm not in love with this title, but it's the one that seems to fit the poem, especially the shape of the poem. So it's called Nature's Cleaning System. I had wanted to call it Cleaning System, but it just didn't work having nature at the very end. So it ended up back in the title. Walking down the driveway, carrying 2 bags of trash and a white plastic recycling basket, I noticed the sky has been rinsed clean by giant water vapor laden clouds that look more like sponges scrubbing Welkin blue. I tossed my waste of egg carton, old salad scraps, empty bottles, and bread wrappers into curbside bins and slowly walked back in, taking cell phone pics of, oh wow, what a cheap ending, huh? Ellipsis, which is hopefully referring back to the title. I could do this. More of a circling back thing, right? Maybe. Yeah. But that's all I have to say about sonnets today. I've taught sonnets with students. I was in California Post in the schools for 22 years. And when it came time to have students write sonnets, they would freak out, all the forms. I told them, the first thing, don't worry about all those things. Just write down what's on your mind. And then once you have that down, then you can make the little adjustments you want to make it more sonnet-like, if you so desire, right? Freedom of thought. What a notion when we're talking about forms. But let's go to our first volunteer to talk about a form they love. Who would like to go first? Oh, very quiet out here.
All speak at once.
Chris, you want to go?
Sure.
You spoke. Go ahead. Tell us about your favorite form, and
My
you
mouth.
can do it as much as you want.
First, I want to say that the stuff to which just last said, I used to give lectures on poetry in an English teacher's class at PCC, and we'd often have kids write poetry. This particular issue, I read them Shakespeare's Sonnet 27, I think, or 29.
That's impressive.
Yeah, well, yes, I can read, and they can listen. I'm often surprised at that. But I said, now I want you to go home and write a sonnet. You can use this one as kind of a template. And remember, this one says, I feel bad about myself. I feel bad about myself. I feel really bad about myself. You make me feel better. So this is when in disgrace to fortune and men's eyes, I all alone will weep my outcast state, and so on. And believe it or not, they came back. Only one had anything that looked like a sonnet form, but they were all very good poems.
Mhm.
And they were all, one thing the sonnet does that I enjoy is it's compact, and generally it has a sense of completion. Even the non-sonnet that you just read on has a beginning and it has an end, and you see a transition moving in there. And I've enjoyed that compactness. I've also found some limitations to a sunset. I wrote a poem way back in the day trying to talk about depression, and I discovered that the sonnet is probably not the best thing to talk about depression in, particularly in the standard sonnet form. It comes out too tidy, and at least in my experience, depression is never tidy. I did, however, take roughly the same subject and make it funny, and that worked. Sonnets work well for humor, again, because you're playing against the structure, and that sounds like fun.
It's
Let
like
me
playing
read you.
tennis without a net, right? It's like playing tennis without a net.
Exactly.
Robert Frost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Robert Frost said that, I think. Um, Let me just read you those two quickly. You can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Let me put this up.
You want to share them on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be wonderful. Thank you, Chris.
As soon as I find them on the screen. Okay, here's the first one.
Very good.
Hey, not quite depressing enough depression poem. When evening comes, when evening comes and draws the shades of night across the windows of my fettered soul, the day's pain lingers in the waning light. Each weary breath exacts a teary toll. So much that I must do is left undone, so much I never wish to do complete. I huddled in an empty room, alone, too tired to try, too blind to see defeat. Beset by voices only I can hear, I haunt a faceless wasteland, bleak and bare. While prey to passing folly, pressing fear, my mind too numb to dream, my heart to care. And yet when all is darkness in my sight, your presence spends a ray of morning light. Woo! Now,
Very good, sir.
to me, it just wraps up a little tidily, besides the fact that some of it seems trite to me. On the other hand,
I think to share the other poem, you have to go out of screen share and then get the poem up and go back in. But you brought up something that's also something I forgot to mention about the sun, and that is To title or not to title a sonnet, that is a choice. Shakespeare's sonnets were not titled, and they take the first line and consider that to be the, so to speak, title of the poem. So they were untitled, numbered. Can you number them?
Oh,
Yeah, if you have it up on your screen, then go ahead and do the screen share. It should work. You might
yeah.
get a choice. You might get a choice when it asks you which screen to share. You have to pick the right screen. Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
There we go. This is when I found myself frustrated with the last one. I wrote this Sunday, 7 a.m. When morning comes and yanks the chain of day and dumps it bright and heavy on my head, I wince and try to make it go away till throbbing temples drive me out of bed. Remembering stuff I should have done but didn't, concerned about stuff I had did but can't recall. I rise and then immediately wish I hadn't. Yea, pride and beer both goeth before a fall. The wonderful world outside I know is calling. If I could just get my carcass off this floor. The flesh is weak and the spirit is none too willing. My new life goal is to get through the bathroom door. But when it seems my day is shot to hell, your coffee heals my soul and all is well.
Fabulous, fabulous. Yeah, I love some of the old-fashioned words, the archaic words like goeth. Yeah. This is really fun. It's a fun read.
Exactly.
I see what you mean.
I feel like PCC kids love this one. I have some examples of pushing the boundaries if I have time.
Well, if you want to show one pushing the boundaries right now, I'll go ahead and do it.
Okay, let me do that. May find it.
And then I want to give some time to the others as well.
Yeah, of course.
Because I know they've got some crazy things to share, crazy good things.
Well, so getting crazy with sonnets is very fun.
Well, your sonnets were a very enjoyable read, very enjoyable to read. That's another thing I told the students. I said, if you have 2 words to choose from in a rhyme, pick the simpler word, right? It's more of a straight ahead rhyme, like day and away and head and bed. Those are good rhyming words, very solid.
Okay, I'm going to read this one. I can't find the one who's going to share, but this one is pushing the boundaries because it's got, I think it's iambic octameter. It's got long lines. Otherwise, it's a relatively standard sonnet form. But this one just sort of worked out that way. Can you see it?
You have to close the old one to show something new. That's the thing I learned the hard way. Right? I did a feature the other day, and I had a bunch of poems, and I said, "Why are you showing the same poem over and over?" Oh. There we go. Yeah.
Moments. Never mind that we crossed paths among the avocado trees. Forget the bright wind tossing auburn strands across your sagebrush eyes. Forget your sun-warmed hands that held my arm as if I were a prize to cherish, not a passing ember tumbling down the desert breeze. Never mind we sat, your arm in mine, beneath the orange blossom skies. Forget we lingered as the sunset lined your upturned face with gold. Forget how lilac shadows swept the hills, made jasmine flowers unfold to bathe us in their sweetness as our small talk settled into sighs. Never mind that we lay side by side, the seaside night turned bright and cold. Forget we fell into the well of stars, and on the still warm sand, soared through uncharted nebulae and silence till you found my hand and pressed it to your heart and pledged together we'd grow old. Never mind our past, our precious moments shape us as we stand, but know however long the journey, you remain my promised man.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
one where
go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
the content, which what came to me was basically the first line. And I couldn't figure out a way to shorten, say the same thing. I thought, okay, I'll write the rest of the poem that way. And it feels good to me. It feels like it worked. And does to me what a sonnet does. It's compact and it takes you on that relatively, it takes you on a journey and then brings you home.
Yeah,
And
like three-part episode, like you said, beginning, middle, and end.
right.
And there's two variations here too that I want to point out. The one you already mentioned, Chris, is the longer line, and that creates a slightly different flavor, doesn't it? When you read it out loud, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's not as compact. But then conversely, it's also interesting that your rhyme scheme is different here. Here, it's not ABAB, it's ABBA.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a wonderful variation as well.
Yeah, that's one of those not Shakespearean sonnet, but Elizabethan sonnet. I mean, that particular variation is sort of in the ballpark, and it's old too, but
So
bond is coming.
even then, they were doing variations. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Fabulous, fabulous.
even when you could get shot for doing
Thank you for sharing. All
sure.
right, I want to give some equal time to other people. I'm hoping that they are ready. Maybe I'm gonna have to call, like you say, because I'm gonna go with Mark Fisher next. Because I hope he's ready, because he has a variation on a villanelle, right?
Well, it's the terza rima modification. I just was realizing that I actually have a terza rima sonnet also, but that one I didn't get prepared.
Yeah, it looks like today's norm is to share at least 2 poems, so you can do both.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can share screen. Wow, everything changed. Is it showing up?
Yeah, it was there. It was there. You're there. You're good. We can see it. I can see it.
Okay. Because it looks completely different to me now.
Yeah. Very villanelle.
So
But it's not.
the villanelle has the repetition, and the terza rima has the rhyming of first and third lines.
Oh, repeating.
So we have the first and third lines of each stanza should rhyme, and the second line becomes the third line of the next stanza.
Whew.
So it a lot of it writes itself. And then the last stanza's got 4 lines, and 2 of them are from the first stanza, and the other one is the third, the middle line. Well, I'm lost now.
Oh, from the previous stanza, right? The third line, it was the second line in the previous stanza, right?
Right. So.
And then that last one was the first one. Oh, wow.
So
yeah,
we've got the.
So that's a terzanelle.
Yeah,
Is that
terzanelle.
right?
Terzanelle.
Yeah. Terzanelle, and okay, second becomes third.
And then we have.
As we merrily roll down the stream to the end. And at the very end, the real variation on the very end is just that last line is the first one. Come back to it, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So we're coming back.
You want to read it?
Stanza. Okay.
Yeah. Nice geometry.
Isolation. Just another sullen, rainy morning, drifting down into triviality, coming for me without any warning, draining away all my vitality, briskly flows away with the rainwater, drifting down into triviality. Memories residing in backwater, where another me lived lonely and lost, briskly flows away with the rainwater. Piling up my dreams in detritus tossed, islands of old driftwood in history, where another me lived lonely and lost. Those quiet corners filled with mystery, patient with this moment's dreary sadness, islands of old driftwood in history. Very full of foreboding and madness, just another sullen rainy morning, patient with this morning's dreary sadness, coming for me without any warning.
Yeah. Wow, it's almost, those lines that are repeating, that's almost like a refrain, the repetition.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. That's quite a trick in the villanelle to make it flow despite this repetition. And you've done it.
That's the challenge.
Mhm.
And that's why I mess with them.
I really like that fourth stanza where you said, piling up my dreams in detritus tossed, islands of old driftwood and history. Oh, such beautiful lines.
Thank
And
you.
it has to reoccur. Wow.
Right. In a slightly different sense.
Quite a trick. That's a fun thing to try. So the villanelle, I remember when I was teaching the students in California Post in the schools how to do a villanelle. You know, you can't have them go blank because the rhyme is so important in the villanelle. The very structure of the villanelle is the rhyme, right? There's two rhymes. There's only two rhymes in your standard villanelle, the rhyme of the first and third lines, and then the rhymes of the second lines, right?
Right. And then the repeated.
Yeah. So I told them, just get that first line and rhyme with it, but the rhyming line is going to be the third line, not the second line. And then you compose a second line that doesn't rhyme with the other two. And so your poem is a great example of that, right? You have morning and morning, and triviality does not rhyme with morning and morning. So that's the way I would illustrate it to the students. But then this is a variation on that, because here the second line becomes the rhyme of the first and third lines of the next stanza.
Right.
Because of the terzarismo. So that is an interesting variation, because otherwise you would have to repeat that rhyme. It's kind of like that old form, I think it's called a ghazal or ghazal. I never know how to pronounce that, but that's the one where you have that one word repeated at the end of every stanza. So you have that one rhyme only in the entire poem. And a villanelle has two.
Right.
And then a terzanelle, wow, it's like leapfrog.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fabulous. And you said you had another form, a sonnet one?
I do have, let me see, you say close this one.
I'd like to see that one if it's possible.
Okay, I think let's see, where is that? Close.
If John Lennon knew all the stuff he would have written, imagine it was a terzanelle.
All right. Why is that? Close that. There we go. Oops. Well, I won't be able to do any of the fun whiteboarding, but I can share.
Did you bring it up? Did you bring the poem up? Is it up? Because then you can.
I am headed that way. There we go. Share. And there.
Yeah. It looks like you've done it. There we go.
Okay. So like the terzarima, you've got the first and third lines doing the rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's got 14 lines.
Yeah.
So
you're forced to couplet at the end. What about the middle lines? Do you have to do anything with the middle lines?
When I did the sonnet version, what I found, it didn't have to do anything. I have another terzanelle But I don't. This sonnet doesn't do the rhyming the middle. Doesn't do the thing with the middle. Doesn't do the leapfrog.
Yeah, okay, I got you. Can you read it? Please.
Okay. The ruins of Arecibo. Oh, my stars, now what secrets can't you tell? What beauty your radio rainbow lost when Arecibo's storm-damaged dish fell. No more last secrets from that poor star-crossed monument to understand our sky and all the wise lessons we have been taught. Such wisdom hidden now from our eye. So many answers remain still unknown, and all the mysteries with which we vie. Anti-science fools did really disown, having fallen so deep under the spell, so all of scholarship they must dethrone. Our hard-earned knowledge will fade as well. Oh, my stars, now what secrets can't you tell?
Oh, wow, so much better to hear it out loud. Now I understand what you did with the second line, right? Because it creates the rhyme of the next stanza.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not repeated as like the third line, but it does create the rhyme for the next stanza.
Yeah, so it's not a case of doing nothing. This really did serve a purpose. You know, and the other thing I realized, you know, when you read the poem, and all the poems I've heard today, it's been true. What I've tried to emphasize to the students, you know, despite the fact that these are forms, the forms are merely scaffolding for your ideas. The main thing is what you say, and the scaffolding just gives you a method of saying it. But the ideas are number one.
And it's an extra challenge to fit something into the form, which
Yeah, so in that case, it's like a mathematical thing, right? And if you can put art in the mathematics.
It's exercise.
Yeah. So if you're not inspired, use scaffolding.
Gives you a
Fabulous.
starting place.
Did you want to say anything else about it? I'm going to move on if you don't have anything else.
Okay.
Let's go to, there's the unknown factor. The unknown factor for me is Jackie Chou. Did you have a formula?
Okay, I'll share. Yeah, the Pentoum. I'll share a poem. Don't think I can explain it, but the explanation you can find online in Poetry Foundation, but I'll share a poem. See if I can explain it. I don't know yet. Okay.
Yeah. You just basically a Pentoum to the blood. What does a Pentoum do? That's all.
Okay, it's a repetition of the same lines. It's kind of like a villanelle, but it's 4 lines per stanza. Okay. Awaiting my, okay, let me see. Awaiting. Oh, here it is. Share.
Screen share, there it is.
Okay, it should come on. Okay, it's a little bit long. Awaiting my October love. October has come. Where have you been? It's time for both hello and goodbye. Hot days end as we await Halloween. We'll sing and dance in costumes, so don't be shy. It's time for both hello and goodbye. Cool breezes sweep away fallen leaves. We'll sing and dance in costumes, so don't be shy. New love will grow because it's in our beliefs. Cool breezes sweep away fallen leaves. A million jack-o'-lanterns light up the night. New love will grow because it's in our beliefs. Don't let my disguise give you a fright. A million jack-o'-lanterns light up the night. I parade the streets as a butterfly fairy. Don't let my disguise give you a fright. I'm too benign for you to be wary. I parade the streets as a butterfly fairy. October has come, where have you been? I'm too benign for you to be wary. Hot days end as we await Halloween. Okay,
Yeah.
So you see the pattern here? It's
Yeah,
A, B, A, B,
the rhyme scheme, yeah.
B, C, B, C, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, or does that come? Oh, E, F, E, F, and then F, wait.
Well, yeah, it ends
F,
with a,
G, F, G. Oh, no, no, F, A, F, A.
yeah.
So the last, so
Goes
it's
full circle. It goes full
repetitions.
circle, right? Goes
throughout
back to the original rhyme. And the
Yes,
second and fourth lines become in the next stanza the first and third. That seems to be the main thing, right?
yes, yes,
So it's like a balancing act. You got to put the lines where they belong, and you keep the rhyme scheme going. Wow,
right.
quite a trick, quite a trick.
It's a little bit easier than the sonnets because it doesn't have a meter. And the lines can be any length.
Good to know. Good to know. I didn't know that.
So, okay. So this is a Pentoum. Should I share a haiku or another Pentoum?
Oh, let's go with the haiku. We got to represent haiku.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me find the haiku that are new. Okay, let me take this down
And that'll be a good segue
and
into our
share
next
haiku. Okay. Download. Okay. More haiku March.
And the haiku is a greatly misunderstood form, right? It's of Japanese origin. Translating it over to America,
Yes.
things got lost.
Right.
Right?
February 2021. Okay, let me see if I like this one. Oh, wait a minute.
It's a
This
haiku
is
scheme.
not the right one. Let me stop here. Okay.
I was going to say, the original Japanese, was it one line vertically? That's what I understood.
3 lines.
So it was originally 3
Okay,
horizontally?
storage.
Because I've seen haiku in Japan. They post the
Horizontally.
poetry publicly, and it's one line.
Okay. I think it's sometimes one line, and it can be one line, but usually it's 3 lines.
Okay, so that's the Japanese.
Okay, it might take me a. Okay, let's see.
Because America, they put a whole nother rule on it, right? The syllabic rule. Which
Right.
is not true in Japan, only in America.
Careful.
And even then, there are
Right.
variations.
Okay.
Oh, I hope you got the poem. Really want to see it.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
Haiku, end of February. Let's see if this is the right one. Oh, okay, I'll read these.
All right.
Okay, I'll read the ones that are bolded.
Mhm.
Crescent moon, pondering the length of your eyelashes. Bus window view, Van Gogh's rooftops below the bridge. Bus window, the muted swaying of windblown trees. And the last one was heart palpitations, the song free falling on the 13th floor. And the last one, the line was cut off. It's supposed to be the stale taste of supermarket sushi, winter solitude. Winter solitude was cut off. So it usually starts with an image from nature, like the crescent moon. And then the rest of the poem is the poet's reaction to the image of nature.
So there's 2 parts.
It's supposed
haiku,
to
really, right?
2 parts. And it's supposed to juxtapose with the first line. So the eyelashes kind of are in the shapes of crescent moons.
That's very lovely.
Yeah. And I'm reading the ones that I like or have been published. The next one that was published was Bus Window View, Van Gogh's Rooftops Below the Bridge. I've been taking bus rides a lot, and there's a little bridge where the bus passes, and when I look down, the rooftops look just like Van Gogh's paintings. He usually paints like from a maybe elevated place, and he only paints the rooftops, not the entire houses. And so that's what inspired this haiku.
That's what you saw. That's actually what you saw.
And but
Mhm.
yes.
Let me ask you a quick question.
And the next one is
Go ahead. I'll ask it. Yeah.
yes.
All right.
Okay.
Here's
And
what
the
I wanted to
next
ask.
one is bus
Okay.
window.
After.
Okay.
I-
What were you gonna ask?
Yeah, because we got the the two bus window poems. So I've heard that if a
Yes.
poem, if a haiku is not based on nature, but on something man-made, it's called a senryu,
Yes.
which is just,
So it could be a senryu. Yeah.
and the senryu is supposed to display the folly of man,
Right.
rather than a beautiful depiction of a comparison with nature. So it makes me wonder.
Yeah. So heart palpitate. Uh-huh.
That one, the bus window view one,
Well, bus window. Uh-huh.
is not too natural, right? Because the bus window is man-made, the rooftops are man-made, and the bridge is man-made. So maybe that's more of a senryu
Yes.
than a haiku. But the next one, the
Yeah,
one you're
it's more
about
of
to
a
read,
senryu.
is inverting, is taking the man-made thing and then comparing it to the nature thing instead of the nature thing to the man-made thing, right? Go ahead and read
Yes,
it.
that's exactly true.
Yeah. So that's
Bus window, the muted swaying of windblown trees.
yeah, that's lovely too.
Yeah, so this is a reverse of the order of traditional Japanese haiku. And we do have the discretion to do that. Sometimes the nature is in the end, sometimes it's in the beginning. But heart palpitation is definitely a senryu. Heart palpitations, the song Free Falling on the 13th Floor. That's definitely a senryu.
There's so much
I have a
there's
great
so much
fear of
loaded in that
heights.
poem, you know, the emotion loaded in that poem, right? It makes you think.
Oh, okay,
Someone's
thank
gonna
you.
Someone's gonna jump 13 floors. Really good poem. Really
Yeah.
fun. And I was gonna say for the bus window one, the muted
Thank
swaying
you.
of windblown trees, you know, it's such a beautiful image. But if that image came first, the windblown trees, if that came first, the poem wouldn't be as pretty. So the fact that you reversed it made it a prettier poem. You got to end on the
Thank you.
beautiful image. That was really a great thing to do. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. And the last one, the stale taste of supermarket sushi, winter solitude. Winter solitude is a kigo in Japanese that is employed in poetry, in haiku a lot. You don't have to use the seasonal word, which is what the kigo means. But sometimes you use it in a creative way, and it's very effective. So winter solitude is a seasonal word in Japanese haiku. And it kind of relates to the mood of the first two lines, the stale taste of supermarket sushi, the coldness of the sushi kind of juxtaposes with the winter solitude, the coldness of winter, and the loneliness of eating supermarket sushi alone.
Would it be correct to say that the traditional form of haiku, you need to start with a seasonal word or have a seasonal word somewhere in the poem?
You don't have to, but sometimes it's the seasonal word is used like spring rain, winter moon, and other things, first flute, New Year's Day. Those
Oh,
are
so,
all seasonal words
so you're
that
focusing on
you
a
can
particular
just use.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks so much
Yeah,
for sharing
autumn
that.
leaves.
Yeah, I'm glad
Okay,
Haiku got
thank you.
represented. Haiku got represented. It should always be represented.
Yes.
It's a wonderful starting place for students to write poetry because it's so compact, it's so intense.
Mhm.
You know, they get a sense of the power of an image as well as, you know, what they say.
Uh-huh.
Both things work,
Yeah,
which leads me into our next
right.
poet of great form diversity, James Coates. Got a few forms to talk about today. Which one do you want to do first, James?
I don't know. I pulled up a sonnet that I can share because I wanted to kind of explain how I went from taking other forms and adding them to into one to kind of create my own form.
Well, please
And
do. Please do. Yeah, that sounds very good.
okay, so let me share screen and then we'll read.
We don't have enough sonnets. That's for sure. Then we could do a whole thing just about sonnets, but I didn't want to be a one-trick pony today. So,
Okay, so y'all can all see that.
mhm.
All right. So I don't do a lot of sonnets. Sonnets are hard for me because of the iams, the stress, unstress, trochees, all that.
Oh,
And so I kind of avoid them a little bit. But this is one I worked on last year, Sonnet 66, What Will Be, Will Be. Shall I deceive myself a joyful lie, dreaming about the methods that you employ? Too hot, then cold to pick winters in July, invading my mind hell bent to destroy. When does a smile melt the freezing heart? How can we think we've passed what pain inspires? Venom causes dead flesh to fall apart. Decades of life collapsed, lost in desires. Remember this, all choice is but a chance. Though there were tears, begin with hope once more. Destined songs beat in step only you can dance. Droughts dry up, in time rivers will restore. I came to know the power to awake, truth in this freedom to own our mistake.
it's got that sonnet feel.
Yeah, so sonnets, you know, I appreciate rhyme scheme, and I appreciate the quatrain. And so what I did was I kind of was like, okay, what if I fill that out and have 4 quatrains, stanzas. And so I'll show you, you know, the poem. Actually, it's up here.
Oh, they're just, a variation.
Okay. So here I was like, okay, well, I started with the sonnet. I wanted it to be 16 lines total though, instead of the 14 for the sonnet.
Mm.
And then I was like, I want to pull kind of like a sestina, where we have words kind of repeated at the end of lines.
Mhm.
And then again in the last like 3 lines. And so in the sestina, you pick 6 words and then you repeat them. And so for this form, you pick 4 words, and that's kind of the origin of the poem. So you pick 4 words, you know, they're going to pop up at, at various places. And if you can see the colors, you see where they pop up and they're repeated. So it kind of gives you an origin point to start. All right, 16 lines total, 4 words, and then you can write about whatever subjects you want. And then there's a rhyme scheme of A, B, C, B. um, and for each stanza. And then in the last line, you repeat all 4 words in some variation.
Yeah, just like in Sestina, the last stanza is an envoy of 3 lines, but all the words are used together. Yeah,
Exactly.
so I follow you there. Okay, love to hear it.
Okay, this is titled The Mountaintop. Success is not a simple road paved in gold, but paved with blood sacrificed many seasons. I wouldn't have dreamt so grand a dream. This man had deep conviction as his reason. Reason with those that would see him dead. Relentlessly he marched on right ahead. Why? Equality for all men and women he believed in. A truth that in our heart we cannot deny. Deny they tried that humanity deserved all flesh. He suffered at their hand all manner of abuse, dog attacks, beatings, and even thrown in jail. Still, his belief in a better world wasn't reduced. Reduced hate nonviolently, ironically, it cost him his life. Yet, he left a legacy of guidance, hoping for our best, choosing faith and love despite our many differences. So don't deny the reason why or reduce Dr. King's success.
And you gave this form that you created, you gave it a name, right?
Yeah, so because we start with the 4 words, I called it 4 Kings. And also because, the last line combines all words, it reminds me of that magic trick where you have the 4 kings and then they all end up at the top. And that's kind of the trick. So, yeah.
And it's homage as well to Dr. King.
Yes.
Yeah, so even from the title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that is really, how did you do that? That's amazing.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that idea?
It was so I took a class and we learned a new form, and it was the bop, and that's a form out of Baltimore, and the instructor was like, all right, your assignment is to go create a form of your own after you write your bop, and it could be however you want to create it. And so I started thinking about it. And so this is one of the forms I came up with. I also created another form.
Yeah, you want to share that one, right? The golden one?
Um,
or what? Which one?
no, that's the other form I created was it was called a suplex. So if you're familiar with the duplex by Jericho Brown, it's very similar to that, but the way he pairs the lines going like 1 and 2 2 3 3, kind of like, instead of doing that one, in my version you go down one end and then you go back up the opposite way.
Different kind of stacking, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the one you want to share? You wanted to share another one? What's the one you want to share?
That one's kind of long.
Well,
so
whatever
I don't know if you want me to read it.
Go with your gut. Go with your gut. Go with what you want to share. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it is. Let me close this one. Stop screen share. Let me see if I can pull that up.
Well, that's advanced, creating your own form. Once you've done the required form, take it to another level.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. File. Open. All right. Close that. All right, let me screen share now. All right, So this is a form I learned about this week, and it's called the golden shovel. And what it does is you take a quote from someone, and then it could be a song lyric or a quote, but you take a line, and that's going to be like how you write your poem, kind of like an acrostic, but the word comes at the end, like the sestina. And so you write it so that the quote can be read if you read the very last word of the line.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my poem, I did James Baldwin's quote, to be Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time. And the title is Mad Dreams. I don't believe we'll see justice for Brianna, not like we are supposed to. The standards of basic human dignity ghosted us. That's also what it means to be Black. That no matter how respectable you are, the cops still only see a Negro. How can you combat a history at the back of people's minds when it attacks in the present? All this effort is only treating the symptoms, not the disease. This experience is not imagined. It is real as the deaths in this country, as real as the gunpowder that fired those bullets in 1861 and the hateful fingers that continue to pull triggers in 2021. Our solution to this madness has to be just as illogical as the ideology fueling it. We need to be calculated in our response, for all the progress made has been relatively slow considering how many people claim they are woke, and yet their conscience seems to still be sleeping on the job. And isn't this a job? It is. Every day we wake up, get dressed, and go to work to fight racism. To what extent have we been successful at delivering accountability, be it some kind of penance for the constant problematic behavior in this land of the free? Free for who? Not me, not people that look like me. A truth is still a truth, even if most believe the lie. What emotion other than rage could describe the searing flame that burns in our eye sockets? It takes almost all the willpower in us to not want the world to cry tears too, in hopes all that water could put out the blaze and wash away the corrosive acid eating us. The crazy part, though, is we still show up dreaming of witnessing change every time.
Mm.
Mm.
Wow.
So one of the interesting things last year and into this year with me kind of working on my manuscript is how do I take traditional forms and turn them into protests, social justice pieces that are relevant. So kind of blending the traditional and the current.
I wanted to look at that poem a little longer.
Mhm.
I just want to make comments
Yeah,
on it.
me too.
Yeah. Could we see the poem again?
Sure.
Yeah.
Have you tried breaking it into lines?
No, I haven't.
That'd be an interesting exercise because there are parts of it, the way you read it, where it flows that way, as though it is broken into lines. There are also internal rhymes that could hit more strongly depending on how the thing was formatted. It's also long enough that it could benefit from stanza breaks. Although you can't tell where they should go until you break it into lines.
Okay.
You know, Chris, what's interesting about that idea, I remember also paying $30,000. I keep emphasizing that. It's more expensive nowadays. I went almost 10 years ago to get that MFA. But one of the other things I want to give this information free to people. They said, if you create a poem and you're happy with it, see if you can create another version of it and another version of it and another version of it, just to see how far you can go.
Yeah.
That was quite an idea, because it's like you have a poem and you can also have another poem born from that poem. And that was something I had never thought of doing before. So I found two things very interesting about this poem, right? Number one, the thing you mentioned, that you used the words from the quote as the last word in each line. So I wanted to ask you, how did that idea come to you, to use them as the last words, maybe rather than the first words? How did that notion come to you?
That, I believe, is the form. The golden shovel form is you use it as the last, because it's easier to do it, to use it as the beginning, the first word of the line, right?
Yeah.
That happens a lot. So I believe in the golden shovel, what I was told was it's supposed to be the last.
Okay, so yeah, that's a hole in my education there. I didn't know that. That's very fascinating. And I'll tell you why it's fascinating in a minute. But I also am intrigued by something that Chris noticed as well, right? You have these long lines. And what made you have long lines rather than short lines in this poem? Was there any trigger that made it that the words would be?
You know, so as I was writing it, what kept on happening is maybe I was influenced, but I put the quote, each word, on a line, and then I wrote the sentence out to try and end with that word, each sentence by each sentence. But as I was doing it, the end word started popping up closer to like the beginning of the line, but and not like in the middle where like it would be a shorter type poem. And so more thoughts just came out with the longer lines.
So yeah, I had two theories why you did that myself. I mean, the original quoted line is a long line. I thought maybe that was one of the reasons. And then you just brought up the other fact, and that is that if you're trying to follow this pattern and the lines don't sustain their length, you have to make them sustain, right? And so that actually give you more material in this poem, right? That's where you got some of that internal things going on there. They're just really fascinating. You're not locked into a line as a sentence, right? You can have enjambment, you can carry the thought over. There's that line that says, where does it start? It starts, well, the line starts, every day we wake up, get dressed, and go to work at fighting racists. And then the new idea comes with just that word: to what extent have we been successful at delivering accountability, be it some kind of penances for the constant problematic behavior in this land of the free? So the thought went through 4 lines. So the freedom there of being able to do that, that was something I found very enjoyable, and makes me want to try this form. And getting back to what I was alluding to a moment ago, my first mentor at Antioch is a fellow who's very big on coming of variations, Richard Garcia. And so his idea was kind of similar to this idea. He had us choose a haiku and then write the haiku from top to bottom, just like you wrote the line from top to bottom. But he went with, I guess, that standard idea of making those words the first words in the lines, and then just write out whatever flow comes to you using those words, right? And I don't know why, but when I tried it in class, I got the idea I wanted them on both sides. So I had the haiku on the left and the right. It just hit me that I wanted that repetition. And it turned out really well. It turned out to be one of my favorite poems I wrote the whole time I was there. And it was such an easy poem to get published. I was just fascinated. And so I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know what to call it. It's got a haiku on the left, a haiku on the right, and whatever's in between was related. It was related to the subject, but it wasn't the same thing. It's like, here, you put more into it, right? You expanded on it. And I don't know what to call it. So I still don't know what to call it, but it got published. I feel like I want to share it just to show you.
I'd love to see it sometime.
Yeah, I think I can. I'm going to try.
Okay, let me
Show it to you right now, because I should be remembering this. 2012. Okay. Give myself 1 minute or less to find this poem. Here we go. Feel free to say whatever you want while I'm finding this poem.
Yeah, I found with my Sistinas, they're also very long lines as well. A lot of content in there compared to, like, you know, my Pentoums, where each line can kind of stand on its own. The Sistinas and the Golden Shovel, you know, they really tell this longer story. And so there's a lot of info and longer lines in there. My villanelles are short, though.
Yeah, I'm heading toward 2012. I have them lined up by year. Come on, 2012. In Sistina, I've written one of those too. Yeah, it does lend itself to a longer line, maybe to make the words fit. I think that was part of what happened to me. Okay, what is that poem? Come on, poem. There it is, found it. Oh, thank God. Just when I thought I wouldn't find it, I found it. Okay, here goes. Okay, so the haiku is by a famous Japanese poem named Isa. And the poem, original poem, you can see it on both sides. A sudden shower falls, and naked I am riding on a naked horse. That was the haiku. And yeah, I wanted repetition, so it came out like this. Isa frequency. A car roars outside the window, sudden passing marked only by sound. Sudden shower like it comes, passes, goes like a shower, falls out of hearing, as a memory falls, and all one is left with is recollection, and naked at that, because the ears hear naked. I receive the signal, experience vibration. I am a natural receiver for existence. I am riding the waves which pass, reverberate, riding on an invisible wavelength of experiences on a plane, making my path, my sense, a naked transponder for what is here. Naked horse, no, more like 200 horses. So I just got totally jazzed when I was able to use both sides and break Richard Garcia's rule, right? Yay, broke the rule. And he was kind of nonplussed when he saw that. He was like, whoa, he didn't follow it exactly. You know?
You know what came to mind, Don? Since you have it on both sides, I think like towers, right? And so I'm like, and what came to my mind was like a haiku bridge, right? Because they're on both sides, and then the line in the middle, you know, connects
I like
both
that.
sides of the haiku.
That's yeah. Am I glad I showed you? Thank you. A haiku bridge. Yeah.
Or bridge haiku, either way.
Bridge haiku bridge. Well, yeah, maybe you're right. Bridge haiku. Okay, so thank you for that. And finally, there was Christina. And we used to meet in person at the library in Pasadena before the pandemic for decades and decades. And when I took over the workshop in the, well, I think it was around 1998, I can't remember. Someone said they wanted to write a sestina. So I had to look into it. Oh, how do you do that? You know, and all that. And they had the famous 6 words. And I thought it would be fun to have a spontaneous source. So I had everybody make their lists of words, and then we would share the words to get our official 6. But little did I know, there was a troublemaker in my group, a fellow you might have met by the name of Kaloki, a free thinker, that man. So he gave me a word that was very challenging to add to, you know, be one of the 6. So I'm trying to remember the name of the poem because it turned out so well, having the words given to me rather than me choosing them. I guess that's the only thing I'm trying to say there. I'm blanking on it. Let me do this. Chuka, I think you're the one person that wanted to speak that hasn't had a chance. Did you want to say something about poetic form? And you got to bring up your sound.
I could read a poem that I wrote that is sort of a villanelle, but I broke a couple of rules.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I can't share it in writing because I don't know how to do that and I don't have it.
Oh, okay.
Can I
Read
just
it.
read it?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay, it's a poem I wrote a while back because I have been writing free verse a lot and I haven't been writing form. It's called Jane Eyre's High Desert Honeymoon. Dear Edward, your thorn-filled brow meanders like a crooked desert creek. We're nestled in this trailer park like cactus intertwined. Crazed winds blow through the cottonwoods. The noisy roof's a sign that no Bertha in the attic with her frenzied face and mind will ignite our chenille bed, ablaze with mischief and mystique. The desert stretches out below my snowy widow's peak. We dine on rainbow trout prepared with curried rice and leeks, on speckled turquoise dishes paired with aromatic wine. Fierce gusts assault the trailer walls. Your gruff voice calls me Jane. The wild desert donkeys bray. They make us more inclined to vacation in our airstream for at least an extra week. Your thorn-filled brow meanders like a crooked desert creek. We off-road through the bushes in our Chevy pickup truck and relax in sulfur ditches that repose in alkaline. Crazed winds blow through the cottonwoods. Their rustling leaves a sign. We stroll out on the desert in the slanted afternoon and foxtrot silhouetted by a sunset magnifique. The desert stretches out below my snowy widow's peak. Fierce gusts assault the trailer walls. Your gruff voice calls me Jane.
Well, it sounds beautiful.
Thank you.
That's poetry. I'd have to see it to see if it's villanelle-ish, but it sure sounds good.
It is villanelle-ish, but it's important to say niche at the end.
So
And
that's, I
there
coined
is
a phrase, it's a villanelle-ish.
There is a poem I would love to read, but I promised my son it would never be on Facebook.
Whoa.
Because it's about something that happened to him. And
is it okay if it's on YouTube? Because this is going to be posted on YouTube.
Oh, I don't think he'd like it.
Okay, I tell you. It's okay to go ahead.
I could read my poem Coffee with Jesus. But it doesn't have a form. It's just free verse, I think. Oh,
Yeah.
but you know what I did? Okay, I think I looked at a Maya Angelou poem to get her form and her rhythm in it. So what I do sometimes is I write a poem,
Mhm.
and then I read a whole bunch of poems, and I find one that I really like. And then I look at how the poem is built. Like in every poem, there's kind of a spine of logic and an idea. And even though it's different words than my poem is going to be, I call it stealing the logic.
You're
And
influenced. You're being influenced by that poet.
right.
Right, yeah.
So I wrote this poem, Coffee with Jesus, and I'm pretty sure both of these poems were published in Peacock Journal. And I'm pretty sure that this one was from Maya Angelou. So Coffee with Jesus. Jesus drinking coffee inside her heart. Camellia's reach, embracing the barreled ceiling with mystery. The cups line up with the sandwich plates, and she, a stranger, looks on as Picasso's dove flies blithely through the kitchen window, sent and invited. Patterns waltzing with the sunlight flutter above their heads. Starfish spin in tight circles, adorning the room with Byzantine heraldry. The dishwasher hums itself to sleep, and she, a stranger wearing a white robe, floats sublimely through the air, blessed and beloved.
Well, again, a lovely poem. I wish I could see it.
I'm so sorry, I don't know how to do it. You'll have to show me. I can get my daughter to show me how to put it on.
All right. Well, all right. So for the last one, I wanted to bring up Tesistina because I want to make Keloki infamous. In fact, he's already infamous about this well, from that time, the people that were in the circle back then. This was in 2008. And back then, we were trying to reach out to the world with our poetry. And we knew a fellow, God rest his soul, Barry Schwam, passed away last year. And he was our recording engineer. He recorded us reading these poems out loud. And we made a CD. And so that was an attempt to reach out to the world. We called ourselves the Perkins Alley Poets because behind the library is Perkins Alley. And sometimes we would hang out on the wall and read to each other in Perkins Alley. And Keloki gave me that word. I'm going to show you that word now. So we won't be able to live this down. Here's the poem. Here's the sestina. And the 6 words I were given were green, bell, apples, dreadful, toenail, and assholes. Yes, you can guess which one Keloki gave me. And it almost works perfectly, except for the fact that when you read it out loud, the word asshole sounds a little bit like apple. So I had someone complain that I use the word asshole so much in the poem. It only appears 6 times, but they thought it was 12 because apple sounds so close to asshole. I have to carefully pronounce the word. And so when our CD got listed on Amazon, it was listed as explicit because of that one word. Right? It was the only word like this in the entire CD of 12 different poems. And they got labeled explicit. And so one of the poets in the group wasn't too happy about that they wanted to share this CD with their friends and relatives, and it was explicit because of this one word. So I'm just going to read it to be self-indulgent. See what you think. You can try to analyze it as a sestina. I want to write a poem about clipping one's toenails. That's my idea, to start with something dreadful. But then I think of what is even worse, assholes, and realize I need a pleasant counterbalance like apples. A universally loved fruit, historically important, red or green. This contrast wonderfully causes my brain to ring like a bell. I decide I'll try to get every word to sound like a bell. For example, I dig the noise made by each clip of toenails. It's good to cut them. It's like eating something green, which results in fine digestion, a subject considerably dreadful to some, until you remind them that it is grown apples, chewed and swallowed to help to unplug stopped assholes. You definitely want to keep doctors away from assholes. When they get a hold of you, you reverberate inside like a bell. Thus, a diet of the good stuff is essential, like mature apples and bananas and oatmeal and gelatin for your toenails. I hear it comes from animal fat. How nauseatingly dreadful to contemplate. I've got to shift theme. A tree is green. That's better. Our world is mostly filled with glorious green, trees and bushes and grasses and hopefully not just assholes. That would be unpleasant, right? Another notion dreadful, like oil slicks and car exhaust and stock traders clanging a bell to signal the start of trading. There's a concept without visible toenails. How do we get back to nature in this concrete land of few apples? By focusing some time on what gives us a quality of living like apples, and take an afternoon off to walk in a park or wilderness that's green, a place where one can remove one's shoes, expose them toenails, maybe even find a lonely spot to excrete onto dirt from assholes. Like design intended. Remember, we discovered how to cast a bell, forge furnaces, direct sewage through corrugated pipes, so dreadful. And what about us, the modernized people who become dreadful with our loud stereos, air conditioning, paper waste, pre-packaged apples, filling landfills and stopping up rivers? We need a real warning bell to toll in our heads, to call us to ponder again the value of green. Instead, we drive and fly our cyberspace opinions like assholes. Everybody's got a justification. But what about freeing those toenails? Yes, it's all down to toenails freedom, or leather shoes dreadful. When it's the assholes that rule, we diminish the number of apples. So go for the green life and make your own cause a cleansing bell. So I got happy, you know, the Sistina turned out well, despite the challenge of that word. And to that indulgence, thank you so much. We went a little bit over, but what a session it was. Thank you to Chris for showing us sonneting the right way. That was really two lovely sonnets. And then I went to Mark Fisher, right? Mark with his variation on the villanelle, the terzinelle, and then a variation on the sonnet. Did it have a name? Was it a Terzin on it or no?
I just remember Terzarima sonnet.
Yeah, okay, so it wasn't a sonnet. Okay.
You're done. I just posted in chat something I found in thinking about Sistina. Somebody wrote an Excel spreadsheet that automatically fills in where those 6 words should go in the Sistina.
Oh yeah.
So I posted it up there and anybody's welcome to play with it. I found that it was fun.
You know what I'll do? I'll put it in the notes on YouTube when the video's up on YouTube. There's a space below the video where you can put the notes, and I'll take the chat notes that you gave me, because you gave the website address. That's great.
Oh, yeah.
And that way people will be able to see it and go to it right from the video. So I thank you for that, Chris.
Yeah.
That's vital stuff when it comes to making these forms as pure as possible.
I'm also in just a second here going to post my version. I actually created the spreadsheet, so it'll save you some work. But give me a second to get it up there.
Yeah. Okay. Then it'll be part of the show. Well, I was going to thank Jackie. She had to go, but she gave us a good old reliable haiku. And James, the form inventor. I'm never going to forget the 4 Kings now. I want to try one. And the other one's called the Name again? Is it Golden what?
Golden Shovel.
Yeah. So I want to try that too. That looks very challenging, but it sounds like a wonderful idea. It's a way of commemorating a line worth remembering from someone and then going with it. That's really a great idea. So Chris, the file is there, all right, in the chat. So I will post it below the video so people can go to it. I hope that'll work. That should work. I think it'll work.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, so we're definitely over time, but it was wonderful going through these many different forms. And hope I'll hear from someone to come up with an idea for next week. Try to keep this series going because it's nice to spend time looking into these variations and forms for ideas to create poems. What it's all about, the mechanics of poetry, tinkering with our words. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to end it. Here we go. 1, 2.